The Yukon may be known for its untamed wilderness and breathtaking northern lights, but beneath the snow-covered beauty lies a darker side. From abandoned hotels, where footsteps echo in empty halls, to theaters where long-lost performers still take the stage. These places hide stories that will send chills down your spine. Tonight, we're uncovering the top 10 most haunted places in Yukon, and by the end, you might think twice before visiting them alone. One, Palace Grand Theater, Dawson City. You step inside the grand old theater, the heavy wooden doors groaning as they shut behind you. The air is cool, unnaturally so, and carries a faint, sweet scent of roses. Locals will tell you that scent means she's here. They call her Klondike Kate, the dazzling performer of the Gold Rush days, who never truly left the stage. At first, it's just a flicker in the corner of your eye, something pale moving in the wings. Then comes the sound, a single, slow set of footsteps on the empty balcony above. Pacing, pausing, pacing again. You glance up, but no one is there. And yet, the dust stirs, drifting as if disturbed by an unseen figure. One Dawson City historian swears he saw her midnight blue gown shimmering under the ghost light. Her eyes locked on him before she faded into the shadows. Technicians say lights will flicker in her old dressing room, and the sound system will hum with a faint, rhythmic beat, like the swell of an orchestra preparing for a show that will never start. You find yourself drawn toward the stage, the velvet curtains looming high above. The scent of roses intensifies, and for a heartbeat, the theater feels alive, warm, electric, as though the audience is waiting in the dark. But when you blink, it's gone. The rows are empty. The silence is absolute. And that's when you hear it, a woman's laugh, soft and close, right behind you. 2. Westminster Hotel, The Pit, Dawson City. You push open the weathered door to the Westminster Hotel, and the smell of old wood, beer, and something faintly metallic wraps around you. This place has stood for over a century, and the walls seem to hum with every argument, celebration, and whispered secret they've ever absorbed. Locals say the Pit is more than just a bar. It's a gathering place for both the living and the dead. You take a seat, the worn stool creaking under your weight. That's when you hear its soft pattering, like children running down the hallway above. But there are no children here. When you look up toward the narrow staircase, it's empty, the shadows stretching long and dark. A former bartender once told of pouring a drink late at night, only to see the mirror behind the bar ripple like someone walked past, brushing the glass with an unseen hand. He swears the reflection of a man in a bowler hat appeared for a moment, staring right into his eyes, before vanishing. The knocks come, next 3, deliberate, against the wall behind you. You turn, expecting a prank, but no one is close enough to touch it. Then the TV above the bar flickers on, static hissing, though the remote sits untouched on the counter. You try to shake it off, but the bartender leans in with a knowing smile. If they like you, he says, they'll just play a few tricks. His eyes harden. If they don't, you'll know. And as he walks away, you feel it, that unmistakable sensation of someone standing right behind you, their breath brushing the back of your neck. 3. Elsa Ghost Town, near Mayo. You arrive in Elsa just as the sun dips behind the jagged Yukon mountains, casting the abandoned mining town in bruised shades of purple and gray. The silence here is not empty. It's thick, oppressive, like the air itself remembers. Rusted machinery stands frozen in time. The skeletal frames of houses sag under decades of snow and wind, and every step you take crunches on gravel that hasn't felt a human presence in years. They say Elsa died twice, once when the mines closed in the 1980s, and again when the workers who stayed behind simply disappeared. Miners' journals found in the ruins speak of strange lights dancing deep inside the shafts, and voices calling them by name when no one was near. One entry ends abruptly, mid-sentence, as if the writer was pulled away from his desk and never came back. You pass what used to be the bunkhouse, its door hanging from one hinge. Inside, the air is icy cold. A table stands in the center, a single chair tipped over beside it. You swear you hear the faint grind of metal on stone, the sound of drills echoing from the mountain, though the tunnels have been sealed for decades. Then, from the far end of the room, a shadow shifts. It's quick, purposeful, moving just out of your sight. You follow it outside, your breath clouding in the air, and that's when you see them tiny, flickering orbs weaving between the black mouths of the mine shafts. One blinks out, another appears closer. And somewhere in that suffocating silence, a voice low, tired, and impossibly close whispers, "You shouldn't be here." 4. Commissioner's Residence, Dawson City. The Commissioner's Residence stands like a frozen memory from 1916, grand, elegant, and eerily pristine, as if time itself refuses to touch it. The polished floors gleam under your shoes, but each step echoes too loudly, as though the house is listening. You pause, and the air shifts cooler, sharper, carrying the faint sound of hurried footsteps upstairs. Locals whisper about the black family who once lived here, and about their youngest son, a mischievous boy who died too soon. They say he still roams these halls, his laughter sharp and sudden, darting from room to room. One historian swears he saw the boy's reflection in a hall mirror, grinning, head tilted before it faded into the gilt frame. You make your way up the sweeping staircase, the banisters smooth under your hand. Halfway up, a floorboard groans, but not beneath your weight. It comes from the landing above, where no one stands. The smell of old wood polish and faint pipe tobacco drifts down, impossibly fresh for a house long emptied. At the top, a door creaks open on its own. Inside, the room is bright with afternoon light, yet the shadows seem thicker in the corners. The lace curtains stir gently, though the windows are shut tight. A toy, a small wooden top, rests in the middle of the floor. As you step toward it, it spins, slowly at first, then faster, whirring on the polished wood with a life of its own. You back away, heart hammering, but not before you hear it, a boy's voice, full of playful mockery, whispering right in your ear, too slow. 5. Ruby's Place, Dawson City. The moment you step into Ruby's Place, the air changes cool, heavy, with a faint trace of old perfume that clings to the walls. The building once thrummed with life during the gold rush, its red-painted facade a beacon for miners looking for comfort and distraction. But that was a century ago, and the women who worked here never truly left. You walk down a narrow hallway, the floorboards sighing under your weight. The dim light catches on ornate wallpaper, faded but still clinging to patterns of roses and vines. In one of the rooms, you feel a sudden drop in temperature so sharp your breath clouds in front of you. And then, faintly, the floor creaks behind you. You turn quickly. Nothing. Locals tell of hearing the sound of heels clicking across the upstairs landing when the building is empty. One caretaker swears he saw a woman in a crimson dress glide past the doorway, her eyes hollow and unblinking, before vanishing through a wall where a door once stood. As you reach the end of the hall, the shadows deepen, curling into the corners. A faint melody, something slow and mournful, drifts from an unseen piano. The sound pulls you toward a closed door. Your hand hesitates on the knob, the air around it icy. Then, without warning, the door shudders violently, as if something on the other side is desperate to get out or to keep you from coming in. Somewhere in that suffocating stillness, a whisper curls through the dark leave while you can. Six. Bighorn Hotel, Watson Lake. The Bighorn Hotel rises against the quiet streets of Watson Lake, its faded sign swaying slightly in the wind. At first glance, it's just another roadside inn, but step inside, and you'll feel it, that heavy, watchful silence that makes your skin prickle. The lobby smells faintly of stale tobacco and something older, like damp wood left too long in the dark. You check in, the clerk's voice low, almost reluctant. "Second floor," he says, sliding you a brass key. The hallway upstairs is dim, the patterned carpet worn thin. Halfway to your room, you hear it 3 sharp knocks from the far end of the corridor. You freeze. The sound comes again, deliberate, hollow. But when you look, the hallway is empty. Guests have reported waking to find their door handles rattling, as if someone is trying to get in. Others speak of a tall man in a dark coat standing at the end of the hall, still as a photograph, until you blink, and he's gone. One traveler swore she woke in the middle of the night to see a shadow leaning over her bed, its face obscured, its breath cold against her cheek. You try to sleep, but the walls seem to whisper, faint tapping, the creak of footsteps just outside your door. Then, at 3:07 your TV flickers on with a burst of static, though the remote lies untouched on the nightstand. The static hums for several seconds before cutting to silence. A silence so deep, you almost don't hear it, the low murmur of a man's voice, speaking right into your ear. Welcome back. 7. Dawson City Museum, Dawson City. The Dawson City Museum greets you with the scent of old timber, varnish, and time. Its grand facade hides a labyrinth of rooms filled with relics from the gold rush, tools, photographs, clothing, and, if the whispers are true, the restless echoes of those who once used them. You wander past a display of miners' equipment, the dim lighting casting warped shadows across the walls. That's when you hear it, the faint scrape of a chair being dragged on the floor above you. You freeze, listening. A second sound follows, soft, measured footsteps pacing slowly, as if someone is watching you from just out of sight. The curator once told of locking up late, only to hear the rhythmic click of high-heeled shoes crossing the main hall. When he turned the corner, expecting a stray visitor, the sound stopped dead, yet the air shimmered faintly, as if disturbed by movement. Upstairs, the floorboards groan beneath your feet. You step into an exhibit room, and for a moment, the air is stifling, heavy with the smell of smoke, not fresh, but old, like the lingering scent of a long-extinguished fire. Out of the corner of your eye, a dark figure flickers between two display cases. You turn sharply. Nothing. Then, just as you're about to leave, you feel it 2 quick taps on your shoulder. You spin around. No one is there. And yet, somewhere in the quiet, a voice breathes your name in a rasp so close, it feels as though the lips are almost touching your ear. 8. Dredge No. 4. Near Dawson City. The hulking frame of Dredge No 4 looms against the Yukon wilderness, its rusted gears and weather-beaten timbers, a frozen monument to the gold rush. The air here smells of metal and cold river water, and every creak of the old machinery sounds too much like a groan. You step inside, and the temperature drops instantly, as though the walls themselves exhale an icy warning. Legends tell of a crewman who vanished during a night shift, swallowed by the dark machinery. His body was never recovered, and some say the dredge kept running for hours after his screams began, though no one was at the controls. Now, visitors report hearing those same screams echoing through the hollow corridors, especially when the wind snakes through the gaps in the wood. You climb a narrow ladder, the metal cold under your fingers. Somewhere below, a heavy chain clatters to the ground with a crash so loud it rattles your bones. But when you look down, the chain is still coiled neatly where it's lain for decades. In the control room, dust coats every surface, yet you see fresh footprints, too fresh, leading toward the far corner. They end abruptly, as if the person stepped into thin air. The silence here is so deep you can hear your own heartbeat, until a single metallic clang rings out from the depths of the dredge. It's followed by something worse, a wet, rasping breath, slow and deliberate, coming from the darkness beneath the floor. And then, faintly, from that black void, a voice rasps, still working, always working. 9. Caribou Hotel Carcross. The Caribou Hotel was first built in 1898 in the small community of Bennett, British Columbia, during the Klondike Gold Rush. It served as a bustling stopover for miners heading north. When the White Pass and Yukon Route Railway bypassed Bennett, the hotel was dismantled board by board, loaded onto barges, and floated down to Carcross, Yukon, in 1901. Reassembled there, it quickly became the heart of the town, a place where travelers, prospectors, and locals gathered. Over the decades, it survived fires, ownership changes, and the harsh Yukon winters. One of its most notable owners was Betty Gideon, a fiercely independent woman who ran the hotel with her husband, Edwin, in the early 20th century. Betty was known for her sharp wit and meticulous hospitality. But after Edwin died in 1933, Betty continued to manage the Caribou alone until her own death in 1939. That's when the haunting stories began. Guests reported knocks on their doors late at night, only to find no one outside. Some heard soft tapping on the walls or the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the empty upstairs hallway. More unsettling were the sightings a woman in early 1900s attire, often seen standing at the end of a corridor or gazing from an upstairs window long after the hotel had closed for the night. Staff claim Betty's ghost is still looking after her beloved hotel, checking on guests just as she did in life. Travelers have woken to find their blankets neatly adjusted or their belongings subtly rearranged. Others have felt a sudden drop in temperature accompanied by the faint scent of lavender, Betty's favorite perfume. And sometimes, if you linger in the lobby after dark, you might hear her voice soft but unmistakable, reminding you to mind the floors. They're freshly cleaned. 10. Guildhall Theatre, Whitehorse. The Guildhall Theatre has been a cornerstone of Whitehorse's art scene since the mid-20th century, hosting plays, concerts, and community events. Built during a time when the city was still growing from its gold rush roots, the hall became a gathering place where stories came alive on stage. But somewhere between the curtain calls and empty seats, another story began, one that never made it into the playbills. Local lore speaks of a young man, believed to have been a soldier stationed in Whitehorse during World War II. Records suggest he performed in a charity show at the hall before being deployed overseas. He never returned. Some say he died in combat. Others whisper that he never left at all. Actors rehearsing alone have reported the sensation of being watched from the wings. Stage lights will flicker for no reason, dimming at moments when no one is near the controls. More than one performer has heard slow, deliberate footsteps crossing the stage behind them, only to turn and find an empty set. One technician recalls locking up after a late rehearsal. As he stepped out into the cold night, he glanced back through the glass doors and saw a figure young, in military uniform, standing at center stage under a single spotlight. The man raised his hand in a stiff, formal salute before vanishing into the dark. Whether he's guarding the hall or longing for one final performance, the soldier's presence lingers. And if you sit alone in the theater after hours, you might hear it, the faint rustle of a uniform, the echo of boots on old wooden boards, and the quiet creak of a chair as someone invisible settles in beside you. The Yukon's ghost stories are as frozen into its history as the permafrost beneath its soil. Some say these spirits are bound here by tragedy. Others believe they're simply unwilling to let go. Whether you see them as warnings from the past or restless souls seeking peace, one thing is certain in the Yukon: the dead are never truly gone. They're just waiting for you to notice them.